Hey, all, Father Jim Haney from St. Paul's in the Plains Episcopal Church in Lubbock. We're in the midst of the great 50 days of Easter, the 7-week-long celebration of Jesus' resurrection. But modern Christians sometimes get tripped up by the accounts of Jesus' resurrected body. It seems to them maybe to be a fairy tale. Jesus can appear behind locked doors and then disappear again. He is able to eat, and yet he's able to do things that normal human bodies don't do. And this sometimes bothers folks. They seem to think of it, maybe it's more like a fairy tale than anything based in reality. Well, there's a wonderful book that was written in the late 1800s by a priest of our tradition named Edwin Abbott. It's called FLATLAND. FLATLAND was intended to be a satire about Victorian society. It was compared favorably to Jonathan Swift's satires of British society from the previous century. But FLATLAND also has quite a bit of other stuff in it, some mathematical stuff, some theological stuff too, though the theology is a little bit hidden. FLATLAND became very popular after Einstein came about because it does talk about interesting mathematics and relativity and things like that in a hidden way. The premise of FLATLAND is that Abbott imagines a land that is two-dimensional, that has width and length, but no depth. It's just flat, like a piece of paper. And in FLATLAND, there are creatures. They happen to be geometrical shapes like triangles and circles. And they have little houses. The houses are shaped like that. And the people have little doors that they can go in and out of through these walls. But everything's very flat, very two-dimensional. But then in FLATLAND, a visitor appears, and the visitor is from the third dimension. The visitor is a sphere. And because FLATLAND is flat, the sphere intersects FLATLAND at various points and appears as a circle. But the circle can kind of hover and can look into their rooms and see what's going on, even though they can't perceive it in their flat dimension. But the circle can also intersect their plane, their flat plane, and can appear, the sphere can appear as circles, small circles, big circles, small circles again, depending on what it wants to do. And eventually the circle takes one of the shapes up and pulls him up into the third dimension, and he can see what he's been missing. Well, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think that if we just increase the numbers by one, that could be a model of what happened with Jesus. Instead of a sphere appearing in a two-dimensional world, perhaps Jesus in his resurrection body, perhaps that body has some fourth dimensional properties. He can still intersect our three-dimensional world, and yet, just like the sphere being able to appear in a locked room in FLATLAND and disappear again, perhaps fourth dimensional properties allow Jesus to do that. Of course, that's all conjectural, that's hypothetical, but the mathematics has been there for a century and a half, practically. It's not something bizarre from a human standpoint. It is outside of our scope. Fourth dimensional existence is a little bit odd, though we have computer models we can make of shadows cast by fourth dimensional images, just like you can make a shadow of a cube, and you can draw a cube on a piece of paper, even though it's a flat piece of paper. There are computer models, things like called tesseracts. You can look it up online. There are fourth dimensional and fifth dimensional and sixth dimensional mathematical realities out there. So perhaps that's a little bit of what was happening with Jesus in his resurrected body. And so when you come to those Easter stories, maybe they don't need to be dismissed out of hand. There is a good possible mathematical explanation for what occurred. God bless and continue to have a wonderful Easter.